The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
So yesterday I was talking about what we learned about Hillary Clinton's speeches to Wall Street companies and banks, etc. And my view was we didn't really learn anything surprising at all. We basically confirmed that Hillary Clinton is a centrist, center-left, center-right elected official. We learned that Hillary Clinton has public and private positions on different issues. We learned that Hillary Clinton is a status quo, neoliberal plutocrat in every way that we expected. And for me, the real scandal is the recently released additional WikiLeaks emails. So yesterday, in the last 24 hours, an additional 1,000 or 1,200 additional emails have been exposed by WikiLeaks related to campaign chairman John Podesta's email. And the real story for me is not that Hillary Clinton said basically what everyone thought she was saying to Wall Street firms, but rather that there was corrupt collusion going on, truly dishonest and deceptive collusion between corporate media, the Democratic National Committee, and the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, this isn't a critique specifically of Hillary Clinton. It's not a specific critique of John Podesta. It's not a specific critique of media. It is everything. It goes up and down the chain. And I'll just give you a few examples of this, okay? There's an email from CNBC's John Harwood from March of 2016, which I will show you, congratulating the Clinton campaign for a good performance. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, a few months earlier, John Harwood had moderated a debate. All right, fine. I mean, moderators are going to be voting for someone. This was after he moderated the debate. You could have the same issue with a Republican moderator, but would they be in touch with the campaign chairperson of a campaign? Not really sure about that. Harwood, in several emails to Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta, is just showering Hillary in praise. And it, of course, does bring up questions about, was this someone who was able to be a fair moderator during that primary debate? But it gets much worse than this, okay? Here's another example. The Boston Globe op-ed editor, Marjorie Pritchard, was working directly with John Podesta on the way to get Hillary Clinton the biggest possible presence in New Hampshire. And there's an email of Pritchard writing to Podesta where she says, it would be good to get it in on Tuesday when she's in New Hampshire. That would give her a big presence on Tuesday with the piece and on Wednesday with the news story. Please let me know. This is the type of conversation that you would normally see between a candidate's campaign and a PR agency or the party supporting them. But with the Boston Globe, sounds like the Boston Globe was doing PR for Hillary Clinton. And then it goes even further. There's a document with a July of 2015 media plan where the New York Times Magazine's chief national correspondent, Mark Leibovich, is described as sympathetic. And this really became obvious as a result of these email leaks, because on July 7th, Leibovich did an interview of Hillary Clinton. And then there's an email exchange where Hillary's communications director, Jennifer Palmieri, is basically told, here's the transcript of the interview we did with Hillary Clinton. Before we use this to write an article, you can veto any parts that you don't want included in the interview. And you can check out, I spent a while yesterday looking at a number of these different emails, and Jennifer Palmieri writes back and says, okay, cut this out, cut that out, remove these two references, and then everything after X line you can use. And this is PR type crafting of what the interview is ultimately going to say. This is a very, very serious collusion that should be concerning to everybody who wants to believe that what we're seeing in print and on TV has some level of respectability and honesty. There's one other issue I want to mention, which is a big deal has been made out of an email that seems to suggest that Donna Brazile, the current head of the DNC and then a CNN contributor, was letting the Clinton campaign know that in a debate, there was going to be a question about the death penalty. That's the way it looked, but it actually seems as though this was just Donna Brazile asking for clarification about what the death penalty position is for an interview that she would be doing on CNN. That doesn't really seem like a scandal to me. The other thing from these really disgusting leaks that I don't think is a big deal, but a lot of others do, so I want to mention it, is there's an email which I'll put up for you, which refers to Hillary Clinton hating everyday Americans. And a line from the email from Jennifer Palmieri to John Podesta is, "I know she has begun to hate everyday Americans." People are blowing up saying, wow, Hillary hates everyday Americans. They're talking about language for speeches here. And clearly what they mean is Hillary is not liking using the term everyday Americans in these speeches. It's sort of a phrase or a linguistic discussion. So a lot here. This, to me, far more disturbing, Rachel, than what we learned about the content of her speeches to Wall Street. This collusion is really, really sickening.
I agree with that, but I think another issue is that it's kind of easy to take some of it out of context when it really maybe just was a strategy. For instance, when they're talking about timing the announcement of her opposition to the Keystone Pipeline in order to kind of redirect focus away from her emails. Is that terrible? Is that just strategy?
That is absolutely strategy. No, you're completely right. A lot of these emails are internal campaign stuff. And there's no doubt that the same way any politician wants to manage the timing of announcements to either distract from bad news or put the focus on something that's more positive, there's no doubt about that. My issue is, as you page through it, the coordination and lack of independence that is exposed for so many media outlets. If you ever were doubting the importance of independent media, whether Hillary Clinton wins or loses, these emails should absolutely shatter and destroy that. I can assure you, we've coordinated with no one, in spite of people saying I'm a shill for Hillary Clinton. Months ago, we were told that we were shilling for Bernie Sanders and we must have been paid by him. Now that I say Hillary Clinton is the least bad option, people are saying clearly you're shilling and coordinating with Hillary Clinton. How much is the DNC paying you? I am presenting my opinions. Rachel presents her opinions. Pat presents his opinions. To my knowledge, I hope you guys aren't going to tell me I'm missing something. Neither of you has been paid by the Clinton campaign or any other campaign. I haven't either. We are going to need independent media more than ever. That is for damn sure. And these emails prove that. Let's do a little bit of fact checking of Donald Trump. Donald Trump existing in a fantasy world in that second presidential debate. Yesterday, I told you about how just embarrassingly clueless Donald Trump was on all issues, in losing in tone and losing in substance, just really embarrassing. Let's fact check just some of the fantasy world nonsense of Trump from the second presidential debate. I'll just randomly pick. There's probably 40 or 50 of these. I'm just going to do 5 with you today. Here's a first claim from Trump from the debate to talk about. Trump claimed healthcare is going up by numbers that are astronomical. 68%, 59%, and 71%. The truth is, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, which monitors exactly these types of issues, that health insurance premiums for families rose an average of 3% last year. Trump just lying, making it up. It's bogus. How about Obamacare? Donald Trump claimed that Obamacare is a disaster. You know it. We all know it. It is going up at numbers that nobody has ever seen worldwide. Nobody has ever seen numbers like this for healthcare. It is only getting worse. In 17, it implodes by itself. You sort of have to really make an effort to even understand what on earth Trump is talking about there. But the truth is that Obamacare has actually reduced the uninsured rate to an all-time low of 9% and extended coverage to 20 million people. Trump accused Hillary Clinton of wanting single-payer healthcare. Trump saying, but she wants to go to single-payer. The truth is that Hillary Clinton does not support single payer. She supports expanding Medicare to people 55 and over. I wish Hillary Clinton wanted single payer health care. Unfortunately, she doesn't. And then how about those Syrian refugees? Donald Trump claimed during the second debate that hundreds of thousands of people coming in from Syria, when we know nothing about them, we know nothing about their values, and we know nothing about their love for our country. The truth is that the U.S. has only accepted about 10,000 Syrian refugees in the most recent fiscal year. We actually know a lot about them, and the U.S. has one of the most rigorous screening systems for refugees in the world. Last one, just for kicks. Trump on his Russia relationship. Trump claiming, I don't deal there, I have no businesses there, and have no loans from Russia. The truth is, Trump has been trying to do business with Russia since the 1980s. He looked at hotel development in the 90s. He tried a project in 2008. And he told a real estate publication just 3 years ago that the Russian market is attracted to me. I have a great relationship with many Russians, and almost all of the oligarchs were in the room. Lies, lies, and endless lies with Donald Trump, and too many of his supporters are none the wiser. And I know, guys, that it's almost quaint to say, hey, Trump lied. People should be scared about that because he's lying about demonstrably untrue things. He's made fun of disabled people. He's recommended sex tapes on Twitter, Pussygate, the entire thing. At this point, Rachel, I don't think a lie about Obamacare is going to lose Trump any supporters, is it?
No, it's not. But he's so oriented towards kind of seizing what he wants as opposed to kind of connecting with people and the citizens of America.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I feel like makes it pathological.
Yeah. And speaking of connecting with people, Pat, when in that second debate, town hall format, Hillary Clinton was asked a question. She would walk over, stand in front of the person, look at them, and talk to them. Whereas Donald Trump, it was almost like he didn't understand that it was a town hall. He just could not connect with anybody. I don't know if that's what you wanted to comment on, but that was my impression.
I thought he looked demoralized. I thought he looked tired throughout that debate. And, you know, the lies that we just put forward on the screen there, I think a lot of it stems from the fact that he's not prepared.
Right.
So he's just talking in these, you know, talking points and just kind of
sort of
exaggerating
just saying
the
whatever
points.
comes to mind, right?
Not actually going into the numbers. You can cherry pick information that would support his claims, but he's not doing that.
It's almost like he says, I mean, Obamacare, I don't know, it must have gone up insanely in terms of what things cost. I'll just throw out numbers like 68, and it just has no connection to any preparation or data that the guy has ever seen. And I think you're absolutely right that a lot of it is lack of preparation. Last night, Donald Trump lost it on Twitter. He lashed out in a bizarre and outrageous stream of tweets, boiling with rage and resentment. He was slamming House Speaker Paul Ryan for basically cutting him loose and saying, I don't want to show up anywhere with Trump. This is a meltdown unprecedented by a presidential nominee. Let's start with the first tweet here about Paul Ryan. It is so, well, this is not directly about Paul Ryan, but we'll get to that. Trump saying, it is so nice that the shackles have been taken off me, and I can now fight for America the way I want to. Well, what is the way that Trump wants to fight for America? Apparently with no help from the Republican Party and certainly no help from Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, tweeting about Paul Ryan that our very weak and ineffective leader, Paul Ryan, had a bad conference call where his members went wild at his disloyalty, continuing to tweet about Paul Ryan, increasingly unhinged and implosive. Donald Trump saying, despite winning the second debate in a landslide, every poll, untrue, by the way, it is hard to do well when Paul Ryan and others give zero support. And then why not? Might as well go after John McCain as well, who recently rescinded his endorsement of Donald Trump, saying the very foul-mouthed Senator John McCain begged for my support during his primary. I gave, he won, then dropped me over locker room remarks. I mean, this is just absolutely insane what is going on here. John McCain, universally liked a Republican. Heck, I said when he was running against Obama, if it had to be a Republican, John McCain is definitely one of the better ones. And then Trump called out Republicans who aren't supporting him as being worse than crooked Hillary. It's pretty bad when you call members of your own party worse than the opposition. Here's another tweet from Donald Trump. Disloyal Republicans are far more difficult than crooked Hillary. They come at you from all sides. They don't know how to win. I will teach them. And then going even further with one more tweet saying, with the exception of cheating Bernie out of the nomination, the Dems have always proven to be far more loyal to each other than to the Republicans. Trump has gone rogue. This is anarchy. And now Republican leaders are sort of in a tough position. What do you do if you're the Republican Party? They've already stopped funding the Victory direct mail campaign to help Donald Trump. Ben Carson is questioning his support for Donald Trump. Armstrong Williams, who's a spokesperson for Carson, said Dr. Carson has been unwavering in his support, but the last 24 hours have made that support very difficult to maintain. I get emails from people, guys, saying, hey, everything Trump is doing is normal. He's just running a campaign. He's sticking to the issues. He's going after people that are going after him. That's it. No, we know Trump holds grudges. Trump is resentful. He's aggressive. He tries to destroy his enemies. I applaud unshackling Trump because it is leading to a meltdown of historic proportions.
And does he not realize, too, that you need these people in the House and the Senate if you want to get your legislation passed? I mean, part of the reason why he chose Mike Pence as his running mate was so that he could kind of work with the Republicans in Congress and get the things he wanted to done. Yeah,
I mean, if you, God forbid, he were to become president, how is he going to do any of his crazy stuff if he doesn't even have the support of his own party? And obviously Democrats aren't going to be supporting the guy. Meltdown and implosion of historic proportions on Twitter. The fact that we keep reporting on Trump's Twitter meltdowns is not exactly a sign that inspires confidence in the future leader of the free world, that when he gets his phone and is left alone to tweet on Twitter, everything falls apart. Not good. Right. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, Rachel, go ahead.
Right, but I feel like his supporters continue to kind of redirect this into something that's actually positive and saying that he's fearless in the way that he will attack people who attacks him. And in return, on a larger scale, I know it sounds ridiculous, but extrapolating that to mean that if someone is attacking our country, not that the way that he's doing this is productive at all, but that he is going to stand up for himself and his supporters, and he's going to kind of be a leader in that sense.
I think that you have done an interpretation with Trump-colored glasses that does represent what a lot of Trumpeters believe, and hopefully that number is small enough that this guy gets crushed on November 8th. We'll see.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Today's new David Pakman Show member of the day is Paul Morgan. Paul, thanks so much for supporting the program. It's been made very clear by what's going on in this election that win or lose, no matter who wins or loses in November, we're going to need strong independent media. And you can sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. And of course, if you ever shop on Amazon.com, davidpakman.com/Amazon will then send us a kickback for everything you buy. All right, today's Hatriot Mail is interesting in and of itself, but also the introduction is interesting because we will be talking about Pat Robertson a little bit later in the show. This is Hatriot Mail.
Because there are people who still believe that Pat Robertson is capable of having a coherent thought. Hatriot Mail. Written by patriots who hate David Pakman. Because America. And because freedom.
So this Hatriot Mail is a sort of commentary on, I don't know, how women are and should be treated and my masculinity and blah, 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 blah. Let's see if we can figure out what it is that this Hatriot would rather me do. Let's take a look.
I'm sick of brainwashed, un-American, girly men like Parkman telling us how we should think. That they think that they can lie and we will want notice. Telling us how we feel about as races, women and gays. What's if it's right and wrong? They have no real life experience. They have zero idea how the real world works. Nice shirt, girlfriend. This dude's never been in a fight, never had no money, never even had calluses. However you spell the hard skin on your palm from manual labor.
Right, calluses is what this Hatriot meant. So what is it? I should be mistreating women like Donald Trump in order to be more manly? This type of nonsense is damaging, and that some people really do get peer pressured by stuff like this into being rude to others, mistreating them, etc. It's really, really sad, as Hatriot Mail often is. But you can turn something sad into something good because you can use the coupon code HATRIOT40, that's HATRIOT 40, as the coupon code when you sign up for membership at davidpakman.com/membership. 40% off your membership for life. Take advantage of that. Let's talk about math a little bit. If you think about the earliest math skills, I'm already having a hard time even taking it seriously now with the picture that has popped up behind me of Kellyann Conway. If you think about the earliest math skills that most kids learn, It starts with counting, right? You learn 1, you learn 2, you learn 3. Eventually, you get to being able to compare single-digit numbers. 3 is more than 1. 4 is less than 8. That's sort of math skill number 2. And then you might go to 2-digit numbers, right? Like, 23, 24, 25. You're a big boy now. You know 2-digit numbers. And then very soon thereafter, maybe by age 5, 6, I don't remember exactly, you would be able to say, okay, 87 is more than 54, or 43 is less than 65. That's like, I don't know, kindergarten, first grade. Campaign co-manager for Donald Trump, Kellyann Conway, showed up on CNN's Anderson Cooper, and she seemed to not understand that 47 is a bigger number than any number that is in the 30s. That seemed to not enter into her skull. And I'm going to play it for you. And yes, it is embarrassing. I would get the kids out of the room for this. And let's explore it together and see what happened here.
Do you believe that that is enough to win? Do you believe you can depress Democratic turnout by going after Hillary Clinton, by going after Bill Clinton?
Well, I think Hillary Clinton's been depressing Democratic turnout. My goodness, why is this woman at 46%? She's like the magic 46. She's 46% in the new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. She's 46% in a lot of these swing states. And pardon me, well, but Anderson, she's running as the first female president who has a sitting president and first lady, much more popular than she'll ever be.
Your candidate is below 40%.
Is that a question?
Well, you're saying 46% is bad, but 37% is worse.
You asked me about Hillary Clinton. You asked me if I thought, right, yes, no, one needs not be a pollster to know that. But here's the deal. I'm asking you why someone who has all these advantages, you're asking me how we win. And if Hillary Clinton can't enthuse her base and her turnout enough, can she win? She still doesn't have the Sanders voters.
You'd think counting 2-digit numbers wouldn't perplex the manager of a national presidential campaign. I'll credit Kellyann for being very quick and being able to redirect in a way that many people don't realize is a weasel technique. And that use of, is there a question? That is a textbook technique that is used. And it's interesting because the reason Anderson Cooper interjected with that is because her answer to his question made absolutely no sense. How is 46% objectively bad for Hillary Clinton if in the same poll, Donald Trump, her candidate, has 37%? And this is a technique that you're taught in media training, which is, if you start being peppered with facts that are counter to your narrative, you respond with, is there a question there? And it can sometimes be effective where the audience will say, you know what, that's true. They were bullying her. There was no question there. This also might set the record. Most of the records set by Trump and his surrogates are not good records. This might also set the record for inaccurate statements in 60 seconds. Really, though, I'm feeling pretty ready for Election Day. We're already well into planning content for after the election. I don't know about you guys, Pat and Rachel, but I'm ready to be done with this sort of knuckle-headed nonsense from everybody from Scotty Nell Hughes and Kellyann Conway and Jeffrey Lord, that Trump supporter that goes on CNN. Are you feeling fatigued by all this yet, Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty fatigued, but I have to say I'm not kind of surprised because she seems to kind of also go along with the Trump narrative of not really preparing for anything and dancing around questions, especially when Anderson was asking her about the recent ad attacking Hillary's mental health, I believe it was.
Yeah, I mean, if not directly, indirectly, for sure.
Right, showing her coughing and stumbling and asking kind of the motivation and why they were doing this when he's already alienated the female vote, and she just kept kind of dancing around it.
Yeah.
Well, kind of to her credit, too, she has a very difficult job here. I mean, Trump's campaign is spiraling out of control, and, he's probably not going to win this election. And, yeah, I mean, these whole media cycles are about a year and a half now, so by this time, I'm definitely fatigued.
I'm ready for November 9th, and I think a lot in our audience also are.
Right. What is she the CEO of again?
I think it's just like a campaign strategy, some kind of political strategy group, right? I mean, she's basically a strategist. Usually it's just like she's the CEO of her own consulting firm, I guess.
Right. But if it's focused on strategy, I guess that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because I feel like when she's kind of brought in to not necessarily clean up Trump's messes, but kind of explain them. or couch them in a way, you can always kind of couch things positively or in a better angle, I feel like it just falls flat.
Yeah, her lies need to be much better crafted to be even slightly more believable. Hey, do you guys want to see flat out insanity? Do you want to see what happens when religious right-wingerism infects your brain in a way that no medication can cure? Asked what she thought of the 2005 Pussygate comments, Donald Trump supporter Vicki Sciolaro told CNN's Brooke Baldwin that she is not worried because, number one, Trump is not running for Pope, and if he knew that he was being recorded, he wouldn't have said those things. I would definitely not let children under 10 years of age see this. Let them see a rated R movie or something that the religious right thinks would destroy their lives forever. It would be way less damaging than watching this. Let's take a look together as adults now.
How did you feel hearing that?
Well, obviously it was very offensive. However, I think it's totally irrelevant. I mean, it was so long ago, and I do believe that most men will talk about women in ways that they would never talk about publicly. And of course, if they would have known that they were being recorded, there's no doubt in my mind the conversation would have been totally different. Nobody is perfect. Here's the issues. Last night in that debate, they defined their issues. They lined the marks in the sand. Number one, Roe v. Wade. Okay, Hillary Clinton doesn't care about murdering babies, dismembering abortions. That's okay with her. Okay.
Wait a second.
Religious freedom.
We're talking. I appreciate you talking about substance, and that is important, Vicki. But we're talking about locker room conversation.
Yes.
My question was about: is it okay that a man who wants to be the president of the free world is bragging and admits to it? And yes, he's apologized.
Yeah. Well,
to
that's wrong.
Assault.
Okay. Yes, but that is wrong. Absolutely. But here's the thing, he's not running to be the Pope. Look at the culture of our country. Everybody knew he had strip clubs, but still the millions of people chose him to be the nominee. I mean, this is the kind of person that needs to lead our country. God can use anybody. He used the harlots. And that's the thing. It's all about what God can do. God can do this. God can use this man.
But you know, the things that we've
it's all a part of it.
From this adult man who is running to be president of the United States, millions of children heard that, boys and girls. And boys may take their cues from this guy who wants to be our president and behave in accordance with...
Okay, but here's the thing. When Bill Clinton was president, my children came home from school and they had no idea it was actually called the Oval Office. They thought it was called the Oral Office because of the talk in the elementary schools.
Okay,
Bill Clinton educated my children at a much younger age than I wanted to.
But Vicki, Bill Clinton isn't running for president right now.
Exactly.
We're talking about Hillary Clinton.
No, but his wife is. His wife is. And they are a pair. The two are one.
So every statement made by this insane woman, totally fallacious, right? Trump knew if he knew he was being recorded, he would have spoken differently. So the recording's not valuable. Yet with Hillary Clinton, when we get leaked audio and speech transcripts, they're relevant because she didn't know she was being recorded. Complete conflict. Hillary Clinton doesn't care about dismembering abortions. I mean, that's ridiculous. The Pope doesn't run to be Pope. So what does that even mean, that Trump isn't running for Pope? My particular kids happened to be younger when Clinton had the Monica Lewinsky scandal. So that makes it worse than what Trump did because my kids are older now that they're hearing the Trump tapes. This is off the wall insanity. I don't know how you even think that you're going to represent a campaign if you're this woman.
Plus, Trump should know, too, that he's going to be recorded. I mean, he's on a bus for Access Hollywood. You should be making remarks like understanding that you have a mic on and this could come back to bite you.
I think you can never talk sense into someone like this, right, Rachel? I mean, if we had 4 hours with this woman, 10 hours in a room, this is what she believes, and that's that.
Yeah, we should totally get her on the show. Very nonsensical argument. Another thing that I don't understand is kind of, again, her hypocrisy with the religion aspect of it, saying, again, run for Pope, that doesn't make sense, but then also saying that God can use him. So I don't really understand. So he's not running for Pope, even though that doesn't make sense, but then God can use him. So where is the the straight line of religion here. It's not adding up.
Not to mention, if God can use anyone, how does she know God isn't planning to use Hillary Clinton? I mean, that's just as legitimate of a question. Insane. This is what we're dealing with.
She also did say that she did say that Trump was her next to last choice also, which is interesting.
Yeah, I wonder, I'd love to get this woman's ranking of candidates.
Me too.
Disturbing for sure. And Brooke Baldwin, they're able to do nothing but put her head in her hands. Let's take a break. We will take a break and be back with much more after.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
I'm joined today by Dr. Melanie Joy, who is a Harvard-educated psychologist and author of the book Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, and Wear Cows. She is also president of Beyond Carnism, which you can learn more about at carnism.org. It's so great to talk to you. I think there's so many ways we could enter this conversation, and I'm going to do it in a way that sort of will resonate with our audience because of things I've talked about. The title of your book, Why We Love Dogs and Eat Pigs, I once decided that upon spending some time around pigs and learning about their intelligence and really how they are similar to dogs in many ways, I decided I wasn't going to be eating pigs anymore, and I haven't eaten pork in many years. And some people, when I tell them that, it sort of makes sense to them intuitively. And others say, David, that just, it sounds so arbitrary. It doesn't really make any sense to me. And that arbitrariness is the first thing I want to talk to you about, because as you've spoken about before, there are many different ways in which human decisions about diet and eating animals are sort of inherently arbitrary. And I guess the question is, are some of those decisions more or less arbitrary than others, or is this just inherent to human nature and decisions about diets?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on today. I'm really looking forward to talking about this issue with you. And in answer to your question, it's really important to recognize how our decisions are made in the first place, or what what forces are shaping our attitudes and feelings and behaviors when it comes to the decisions that we make, especially the decisions that have a profound impact on others, such as whether to eat others or not, or whether to eat animals or not. And my work focuses on what I have referred to as carnism. This was the focus of my research, the invisible belief system or ideology that conditions us to eat certain animals. So carnism is it's a dominant belief system. So it's really woven through the very structure of society to shape norms, laws, beliefs, behaviors, etc. And it becomes internalized, shaping the very way we think and feel about eating animals. And so really what carnism teaches us to do is to classify certain animals as edible and all the rest as inedible. And in meat-eating cultures around the world, people learn to classify only a tiny handful of animals as edible. All the rest they perceive as inedible and often even offensive, as well as disgusting to consume.
And so what does this tell us? I mean, some people will hear this and they'll say, well, it sounds almost like you're referring to religious doctrine. People might think about halal or kashrut guidelines that exist in Islam and Judaism, respectively. But you're really going well beyond that. I mean, some of these guidelines may be for some informed by religion, but really you're also talking about non-religious sort of socio-cultural norms, right?
Exactly. What I'm talking about is ideology, and more specifically, an irrational ideology. It's important to recognize that, most of us share the same core human values such as compassion and justice. And what systems such as carnism do that are organized around violence, meat cannot be procured without violence, and egg and dairy production cause extensive harm to animals. So, most people would not willingly cause this harm to animals, especially, or animal suffering, especially when the suffering is so intensive and so completely unnecessary. And so what carnism does is it uses a set of defense mechanisms that distort our perceptions and numb our feelings so that we act against our values without fully realizing what we're doing.
And I think there's something interesting there, not to interrupt, but I think there's something interesting I want to dig in a little bit to this idea of most people, like you said, would not go around willingly causing harm to others. And in this case, you're sort of referring to the animal industrial complex, for lack of a better term. Might this not apply in many ways in life? I mean, as a sort of just particular example, you could point out to people who drive to work, listen, your driving to work is not good for the environment. Do you realize that? And you could also make the case that none of those individuals are willingly and deliberately saying, I want to harm the environment and thus I am going to drive to work. So there must be something beyond this, right? I mean, is it just this idea of rationalization, or is it the idea maybe of a greater good? By being at work, I am doing more good maybe than I am doing by polluting the environment with my car. And maybe there's a sort of similar type of internally rationalized logic that people might use for meat consumption.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Sometimes we do need to maybe act against our values in order to support the greater good. But when it comes to eating animals, the vast majority of us have completely unexamined choices. And when we look at the facts, when we look at what the data tells us, eating animals causes not only the tremendous suffering and deaths of 77 billion land animals globally every year, it also causes harm to our bodies, as eating animal products has been linked with some of the leading causes of disease, the leading diseases in the developed world today. It causes extensive harm to the environment. There is no rational argument today, to my knowledge, that one could make that eating animals is in any way in service of the greater good. What we try to do at Beyond Carnism is really get people to, we're not advocating telling people what they should and shouldn't eat. What we're advocating is awareness. We believe that people need and deserve to know the truth, not simply about animal agriculture and its consequences, but about carnism and how it shapes our perceptions, so that we check our critical thinking at the door when we make some of the most frequent and important choices that we do make in our daily lives. And with awareness, people can make their choices freely, because without awareness, there is no free choice.
I know that personally you're vegan, and in much of what I've seen you write and say about this issue, you talk both about sort of the repercussions of eating meat, but you also talk about it, as you and I have been speaking about, this sort of arbitrary double standard that exists with many animals that people choose to eat or not to eat. I'd love for you to sort of break down a little bit how important the double standard angle is to you. I mean, if someone said, I don't care about animals. I believe that, objectively speaking, this isn't my view, but if someone said, I believe animals are lesser than humans and I don't care about animal suffering, I'm totally consistent. I will eat any animal. Is that someone that to you is at least morally consistent? And do you have, how much would you respect that, still in the context of your broader views about environmental impact, et cetera?
I'm really less concerned with moral consistency and more concerned with people acting in alignment with their natural empathy and practicing compassion, so that we can have the kind of world that most of us actually do want to have. Most people do in fact care about animals. We know, for example, that humans and some other animals are actually hardwired to empathize with others. Empathy is our natural state. And what systems such as carnism do is they cause us to simply disconnect from our natural empathy toward those species we've learned to classify as edible. So what I think is most important is not looking at simply which animals we do eat and which animals we don't eat, but really asking this question: how can I be more connected with my authentic thoughts and feelings so that I can make choices that are in my own best interest and in the best interest of others?
There's been pretty extensive writing about asserting that, were it not for eating meat much longer ago in human history, humans may have died out, right? And to differing degrees, I'm sort of simplifying it, but this case has been made to differing degrees in terms of meat as a portion of, as one component of the human diet. What's your sense of, number one, do you believe that technology and sort of the modern world now allow someone to not consume any animal products and still be able to live a normal life in society? And if you believe that at some point that was necessary, the consumption of animal protein was necessary for the survival of Homo sapiens, when do you think that that changed? In other words, at what point did we come to dominate agriculture and our environment in such a way that eating meat was no longer necessary for survival?
Yeah, I mean, what I believe in terms of, whether eating animals is healthy or not is significantly less relevant, in my opinion, than what the data show.
No,
and
but to be clear, I want to make sure
us,
before you go, I want to make sure that I'm clear on my question, because my question was, do you believe that at some point eating meat in the history of Homo sapiens was indispensable? And if so, at what point did we start to be able to get away from meat in a way that you believe it was no longer necessary for our survival?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a historian, so I can't give you hard facts on this. What I do know is that anthropologists say that our very earliest ancestors were actually fruit eaters, like some other non-human primates today are. We evolved to eating small amounts of meat because we did have to, and it's clear that humans did at some point in history eat other animals, and they did this in order to survive. Yeah. But we know that in the history of vegetarianism, ethical vegetarianism, at least, is traced back to about 3,500 years. 3,500 years ago were the first suggestions of the first, I should say, people who chose to practice vegetarianism for ethical, and at that time it was religious reasons. We do have a vast amount of literature today, research demonstrating that a plant-based or vegan diet is not only a healthy diet, but can be beneficial in the prevention and even treatment of disease. So today, there are some people in the world who eat animals because they have to. They're geographically or economically unable to make their food choices freely. But when a behavior becomes a choice, it takes on an ethical dimension that it didn't have in quite the same way before. And for many people in the world today, they don't eat animals because they have to. They eat animals because it's just the way things are, because they've been conditioned to, and conditioned not to recognize that there is an alternative, there is another way to be.
Well, significant food for thought. It is fascinating, and we will talk about, of course, the book, Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, and Wear Cows, and the ideas presented in it in the future as well. We've been speaking with the book's author, Dr. Melanie Joy. Thanks so much for talking to me about this.
Thank you so much for having me.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Americans, by and large, have no idea that crime rates in the U.S. have been plummeting since the 1990s. The murder and violent crime rates have dropped by more than 50%. There's a new Vox Morning Consult poll, which talked to 2,000 registered voters about their perceptions on crime in their neighborhoods and more broadly in America. And nearly 70% of U.S. voters think that there is more crime in the U.S. now than there was 2 decades ago. 43% of those saying that there is much more crime now than there was 2 decades ago. This includes violent crime, this includes drug crime, theft, white-collar crime, etc. The reality is, fortunately, that the crime rate in the United States has dropped drastically over the last 20 years. Why is this relevant? It's relevant because of what I'm about to show you involving Newt Gingrich talking about the issue, insisting that people feel that things are more violent, so we should, I guess, pretend that they are.
Violent crime is down. The economy is ticking up.
It is not down in the biggest cities.
Violent crime, murder rate is down. Then how come it's up in Chicago, up in Baltimore, and up in Washington? There are pockets where certainly we have not tackled your national capital, your third biggest city. But violent crime across the country is down. The average American, I will bet you this morning, does not think crime is down, does not think they are safer. But it is. We are safer, and it is down. No, that's your view. I just told no.
These are the national FBI
what I said,
facts,
but what I said is also no. What I said is also a fact. Current view is that liberals have a whole set of statistics which theoretically may be right, but it's not where human beings are.
But what you're saying is, but hold on, Mr. Speaker, because you're saying liberals use these numbers, they use this sort of magic math. This is the FBI statistics. They're not a liberal organization.
No,
they're a crime
what I said is equally true. People feel more threatened.
Yes, they feel it, but the facts don't support it.
As a political candidate, I'll go with how people feel, and I'll let you go with the theoreticians.
Yeah, she'll go with the facts. So, guys, I mean, this is really important, because if people feel that crime is higher than it is, authoritarian candidates like Donald Trump, who make all sorts of ludicrous proclamations about crime, are going to be seen more favorably. If you understand that crime is down drastically in 20 years, you are less likely to get sucked in by the Trump rhetoric. I think a lot of people, Rachel, see this and think it's just funny. It is funny, but it has real world impacts that are really scary.
He is trying to capitalize on kind of this certain spikes in cities of homicides and shootings that get substantial media coverage, especially with certain attached social movements. So he's trying to capitalize that on this nation that's beset with crime, and it needs him to repair it. So I think if you can recognize that difference, then you will kind of understand what he's saying is completely inaccurate.
When I hear that people think crime is much higher than it is, I say, well, we need to educate the people. Newt Gingrich hears that people think crime is much higher than it is, and he says, well, we should just pretend that they're right and design our campaigns around what we would do, assuming that that's true, even though it isn't. Really, really disturbing way forward, if you ask me. Why not educate rather than continue to allow people to believe these things and further distort what the path forward is based on authoritarian ideas around non-existent increasing crime rates? Let me talk briefly about Pat Robertson. Pat Robertson declared that Donald Trump was the clear winner of Sunday night's presidential debate, and he seems to kind of like Trump's Pussygate leaked audio, saying, hey, this is macho stuff. This is something that we like. Let's take a look at video from Pat Robertson's 700 Club.
Well, interesting, ladies and gentlemen, what happened, but nevertheless, Trump was the winner. Basically, the pundits were writing him off. I mean, let's face it, a guy does something 11 years ago. There's a conversation in Hollywood where he's trying to look like he's macho. And 11 years after that, they surface it from the Washington Post or whatever, bring it out within 30 days or so of the election. And this is supposed to be the death blow, and everybody writes him off. Okay, he's dead. Now you better get out of the way and let Mike Pence run the campaign. And the Donald says no. But as I say, he's like the Phoenix. They think he's dead. He's come back, and he came back strong. So he won that debate. The next one, we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, he speaks to adoring thousands wherever he goes. And
thousands won't win you the presidential election, sadly. I don't know if Pat Robertson knows the population of this country. So it's insane that the self-proclaimed evangelical, moral Christian leader, Pat Robertson, says that Trump is a candidate that should even be remotely appealing to Christians. But what's interesting, Rachel, is that not all Christians agree with this. Billy Graham's organization recently put out an op-ed saying there's nothing Christian at all about Donald Trump's campaign. So Pat Robertson, even among the Christian voices, seems to be an outlier that likes Trump.
He is, but he's also a hypocrite because because in 98, when the Monica Lewinsky scandal happened with Bill Clinton, he said that Bill Clinton should be impeached.
Right.
And then he went on to say he had turned the Oval Office into some sort of sexual playpen for a poster child of the 1960s, which quite frankly doesn't even really make that much sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense to anybody.
Right. And this is also the same man who originally said he understands if someone wants to divorce their spouse if they have Alzheimer's, although he later retracted it.
Yeah, he retracted it because it was just bad PR for saying it. I don't know that his view actually changed on that. It's shocking to me that Pat Robertson is standing behind Trump, not because Pat Robertson tends to support Republicans, but more because Pat Robertson tends to just go Christian values above all else. And this is just so clearly the furthest thing from what Pat Robertson claims to support that I'm actually somewhat genuinely surprised, Pat.
Really, he should be one of the people that are jumping off the Trump train, I guess, and supporting Mike Pence, because Mike Pence is seen much more as a religious values kind of guy. He would benefit from that, and Pence, of course, would have a much better chance at this point of winning the election than Trump would.
I would have expected Pat to say Pence is the moral Christian good guy, and that's really who it is, which is insane, by the way,
right.
But insane in a slightly different way.
And because Pence was also quoted saying that he likes to spend some time on his knees every day.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah. We've got a voicemail number, 219-2-DAVID-P. Let's take a listen to the voicemail that came in.
Pac-Man, what's up? Louisiana Troll here. How's it going?
Yeah.
So, I went to your website. I was going to actually become a member.
Sure, you were.
Up in the top right-hand corner. Very neat website, very clean. Noticed something interesting, though. I had gone through, last year's videos and a few others, and I noticed a few videos about how Columbus Day was evil. I guess that was kind of a liberal talking point a year ago. It turns out you took Columbus Day off. So I just find it hypocritical of you that you would, come out so vigorously against the holiday. It's evil. Christopher Columbus, evil white man who kill all these Native Americans, and we wouldn't be here having a show if it weren't for him. But we hate him. Blah, blah, blah. But you take it off.
Yeah.
What a hypocrite you are, Pac-Man. That's so shameful.
All right, thanks, buddy. Listen, we take federal holidays off. Work-life balance is important. I think that there is no way on any reasonable planet where Christmas, a Christian holiday, should be a federal holiday. But we take it off. I mean, that's what it is. I don't know that there's anything too crazy going on here, Pat.
Plus, I don't think there's any hypocrisy. You can just argue that Columbus Day should be changed to be like Indigenous Peoples Day or something, and change the name of the holiday. We still want a holiday in October that we take off.
No doubt about it. Good luck with that.
I just love how excited he is about his own title. Hey, Louisiana Troll here.
Yeah, the Louisiana Troll has started calling way more frequently since we've named him the Louisiana Troll. You might not know that because most of his voicemails just get deleted, but that's a story for a different day, maybe for the bonus show. The bonus show today is so great, and I don't even have time to tell you what's on it. But trust me, this I can tell you. It's tremendous.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.